What's more frightening, the huge lumbering demon you can see, or the watchful, lurking, stealthy horror you can't, but can sense right behind you? A wide range of games throw players such a stealthy curveball in the shape of cloaked, invisible enemies. Often they're exclusive to a specific area, or they're limited to just one memorable set piece. However they appear, they're often some of the most horrifying foes in a game. Elusive, deadly, and terrifying. Those of stout heart and steely nerve have probably tangled with some of these shadowy foes over the years. I'm Jess from WhatCulture, and here are 10 terrifying video game enemies you couldn't see. Number 10. The guards with Otacon stealth prototypes, Metal Gear Solid. Throughout much of iconic PS1 release Metal Gear Solid, Snake is outnumbered, outgunned, and on the defensive. Tactical espionage action is the watchword of the series after all. As the adventure progresses, Otacon demonstrates how very useful his camouflage technology can be. And it's a worryingly long time before he hits upon the idea of bringing Snake one of his prototypes. Around this time, Snake is on his final approach to the base where Metal Gear Rex is being stored. He encounters a cargo elevator that appears to be faulty, with its wait alarm buzzing even though our gravelly voiced anti-hero is in there alone. In a confused codec conversation, Snake mentions this to Otacon, who also muses about the fact that his prototype stealth suits were all missing when he went to retrieve one for Snake. With that, the penny drops, and the player discovers they're sharing a very small area with a band of 4 invisible and very angry foes. They can be seen only by the slight shimmer as they move, and they can take a lot of punishment to bring down. It's a very tense and unexpected moment. Number 9. The Novistadors, Resident Evil 4. With Resident Evil 4 being much more action-oriented than previous titles in the series, it was vital that Leon Kennedy get some agile, frightening foes to tangle with. This being the Resi series, a dose of hideousness was also a given. Among the rogues gallery of new enemy types added to the game, the Novistadors were a particular highlight. These gigantic, elusive bugs pack a punch, tend to attack in groups, and infest some of the trickiest areas of the castle, most notably the sewer. They also spend much of their time invisible. Like any largely unseen foe in a horror title, they emit horrible, unsettling sounds, and lurk in some very tricky places. They also have acid breath and sharp talons, because why wouldn't they? Number 8. The Bone Thieves, Eternal Darkness, SANITY'S Requiem. Underappreciated GameCube survival horror, Eternal Darkness SANITY'S Requiem takes a different tack to many genre entries. It's a slow burn, a creeping horror experience focusing on the psychological impact of the ghastly beings you see and hear. You take the role of many different people in this journey across time, and several of them encounter the sheer abomination that is the Bone Thief. These skeletal clawed creatures are able to adopt human disguises by literally diving into the flesh of a human target and wearing it like a suit. Attacking a victim enough, inevitable as they become hostile to you, will cause the Bone Thief to emerge in hideous fashion, before proceeding to flail at you with its claws. These creatures will pursue the player themselves at times, undisguised, so they are sometimes visible. The fact that it's impossible to tell if a character could be a bone thief prior to being attacked, though, is one of the most unsettling things in a very unsettling game. Trust nobody in this game. That's basically the message. Maximilian Roivas sadly took this literally, murdering several servants believing that they were possessed. As the game implies, he wasn't wrong. Number 7. The Kernk, Amnesia: The Dark Descent. The Amnesia games too tend to eschew an action focus. Instead, it's the constant tension and lingering atmosphere that defines its horror. Amnesia: The Dark Descent's ghastly Kernk encapsulates this perfectly. The aquatic enigmas remain completely unseen, leaving the player in a constant state of terror while in their domain. In a similar manner to Resi 4's Novistadors we mentioned earlier, contextual clues from the surrounding environment, disturbed water, are vital to locating and evading these beings. Slower paced, more cerebral horror titles are at their very best when they can cause the player to second guess every step, warily watching everything in their vicinity for signs of something ghastly. These mysterious creatures accomplish this just perfectly. Number 6. The Amygdala, Bloodborne. From Software's beloved PS4 exclusive Bloodborne undergoes an incredible tonal shift as it unfolds, leaning towards more traditional gothic horror elements in its opening acts before expanding into a deeper interdimensional tale of the Great Ones. The amygdala are just one type of Great One. They're huge, many-limbed creatures that inhabit the world and, until a certain point in the story is reached, can only be seen by players with sufficient points invested into insight. They see you regardless though, and will grab the hunter and induce frenzy if they stray into the creature's range. Many a player has collected the hunter set from the body in the cathedral ward only to get grabbed by this mysterious force, have most of their HP sapped, and dumped back onto the ground, utterly bewildered as to what happened. This is also true of the small church area that Patches sends players to. The true horror may be in their appearance once visible, 4 different ones appear as optional bosses and tricky ones at that, but that first encounter with an invisible amygdala was an almighty nope moment for many players. Number 5. The Prisoners, Silent Hill 2. No survival horror games nail the concept of elusive otherworldly foes quite like the Silent Hill series. These titles ramp up the psychological thrills and chills to an absurd degree, with spooks and threats like the iconic Pyramid Head that are often figments of the protagonist's tortured imagination. In Silent Hill 2's Toluca Prison, the unfortunate James Sunderland will encounter not one, but 2 mysterious prisoners. They're completely invisible and will not directly attack James, so they're not really enemies in the traditional sense. As a mysterious presence though, these 2 creatures are all the more frightening for their ethereal nature. What are they? Who were they? Why were they confined to this ghastly jail? Silent Hill 2 is in no hurry to answer these questions, making the prisoners one of the most unsettling presences in the series, which is really saying something. Number 4. The TIMESPLITTERS, TIMESPLITTERS. The cult classic TIMESPLITTERS series is truly unique. The games are a far cry from po-faced super serious FPS titles, offering tongue-in-cheek shooting action that flits between the past, present, and future from stage to stage. Along the way, players meet a cast of absurd characters, including several different types of monkeys, a sentient snowman, dinosaurs, and all sorts of silliness besides. Fans will remember having a riot of fun with this absurd, hilarious series, but for all the humor, it boasts some truly horrifying antagonists, the titular TIMESPLITTERS themselves. As seen in TIMESPLITTERS Future Perfect, Jacob Crow both discovered time travel and created this malevolent race, which fight a devastating war against humankind throughout the series. Our hero Sergeant Cortez and other protagonists tangle with the TIMESPLITTERS on several occasions, encountering varieties such as the Berserker Splitter and the Reaper Splitter. They're more powerful than many of the human opponents in the game, have all kinds of energy manipulation powers, and often chase the player in great numbers once the time crystal is located. To make matters worse, they often become invisible. Number 3. Spectres, Doom 2016. When it comes to the Doom games, deep, thoughtful takes on horror are essentially left at the door. These celebrated shooters are all about high-octane, grisly demon-blasting action, and nobody does it better. The key to success in that arena, naturally, is providing players with large numbers of varied, hideous foes to unleash their arsenal on. From the Baron of Hell to the Caco Demon, Doom certainly delivers. But there's one foe in the series that may be the most frightening of all: the Spectre. Spectres are modified versions of the Demon, an iconic foe that came to officially be known as Pinky in this entry. Sporting all the same power and deadly charging attacks as the standard version did, Spectres have the advantage of invisibility, thanks to the Lazarus Project's hideous experimentations, and they're cunning enough to utilize this by approaching the Doomslayer through stealth. When distracted by a great number of other foes, Spectre's elusive nature can make them an absolute nightmare to battle, popping up right in front of you, right when you otherwise think a room is empty. Variations appear throughout the series, but 2016's reboot boasts perhaps the most frightening Spectres of all. Number 2. Chozo Ghosts, Metroid Prime. 2002 GameCube classic Metroid Prime was a huge paradigm shift for the series. While it flipped the script to a more action-oriented FPS-like adventure, it didn't lose sight of the sense of exploration and isolation that's key to a great Metroid experience. While journeying through the mysterious reaches of planet Talon 4, bounty-hunting heroine Samus Aran tangles with foes old and new. One of the most frightening and deadliest enemies in the game, certain towering bosses notwithstanding, is the Chozo Ghost. Made hostile to Samus by the insidious corruption of the Phazon, they are highly mobile, attack with beams that can disorientate the player, and are only vulnerable to certain tools in Samus's arsenal. Worst of all, they pursue her, invisible, only really being targetable while firing. Only a steady aim, quick reactions, and canny use of the X-ray visor will see the player through these terrifying encounters. Number 1. The Predator. Predator Hunting Grounds. As any movie fan will tell you, there are few invisible foes quite as terrifying as the iconic Predator itself. It stalks among the trees using the advanced technology of its race, hunting humans for sport. Needless to say, the Predator isn't looking to make friends. Predator Hunting Grounds, as the name implies, casts one player as the titular villain as they try to pick off those playing as a squad of soldiers. It's an experience similar to Dead by Daylight, in which coordination and strategy is key to completing objectives, as well as simply surviving. The Predator player, though armed with a range of otherworldly tools and abilities, must be crafty and pick their targets, as health can still be whittled down rather quickly. An expert player, however, can unleash the full power of this iconic, horrifying creature, alongside distraction noises and evasions, darting around the rest of the squad for scores of gruesome kills. That's the end of our list, but do let me know down in that comment section if you can think of any other terrifying video game enemies you couldn't see. As always, I've been Jess from WhatCulture. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. If you're liking, come say hi to me on my Twitter account where I'm @JessMcDonald, but make sure you stay tuned to us here for plenty more gaming goodness.